The production, we shot it in 28 days. It had its challenges.
Wow, 28 days. That which racetrack did you use?
And to Anita.
Aw. Did you ever go with Milch to one of the
No, but when I remember when I knew that I had David's trust, um when we were shooting something and he said, "All right, Dad, you know what you're doing here. I'm gonna go to the track. Call me if you need me." And he took off and I was like, "Oh my God, David Milch, you know, just gave me this blessing." And yeah.
He took us all.
He
He
used to
took us.
go, he went to Del Mar, right?
Yeah, I think that was the Santa Anita track.
Santa Anita and Del Mar were his
Yeah.
tracks. Yeah.
He took us all. Did a field. We just left. He got a van and we went and he gave us money, to like, we were in, and his horse won. I
Oh,
have the
really?
picture of where we're all up there and yeah.
When we were shooting this, when we were prepping it, I would on the weekends I would go to Santa Anita and really really scope it out. And you could shoot almost anywhere there. It's very much intact, or correct for that period. But the thing that struck me was they have these stables where they prep all the horses just before they walk the winter circle and then they go out to the track to race. And there would be that's where all the dressing rooms for the jockeys were, but there'd be all these the jockeys' girlfriends and fans outside. They're like rock stars. Yeah, I just love the culture of the track.
So let me ask you, what do you think happens so when Julius is on the horse?
Oh, well, it's funny because it was my favorite part of the novel when he goes back to the housing development and realizes that they're gone. And then
Yeah.
the horse that he brought them kind of wanders up to him like it's been wandering around the housing development for a couple of months and probably gone practically gone feral. But uh you know he's going to find Henry. It's a very romantic gesture.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how else to get there, and so he jumps on the horse and he starts riding the horse out of town. And I just thought it was the most romantic ending to the novel. And he's going to go to Las Vegas. When we see him, we see like this kind of we put in this little city kind of shimmering in the distance in the desert. He's probably going to go there and blow up his life with Henry all over again.
Yeah,
So,
oh, that minute when Julius and Henry, I mean when Muriel and Henry meet, it was just like, ah, God.
and they don't recognize each other, but they're looking for the same person. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was something that Bryce Cass, the writer of the screenplay, invented. He said, "I have this idea. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think what if Henry and Muriel meet?" And I was like, "Wow, that's like movie magic."
Yeah.
It's so devastating and so beautiful that the two of them meet like that.
Well, it is such a beautiful film. It is just so beautiful and really moving. I mean, I think I texted you at one point when I was watching it that I I guess it was a gambling thing where I just was like, I can't take this. I was so
I'm
scared to
glad you found it
close it.
suspenseful too. That's great.
Oh yeah, no, I really wanted to pause it and be like, wait, okay, okay, please.
It's
And
funny when I was a kid, talking about pausing it. When I was in fifth grade, we read Romeo and Juliet in class, and they took us to see the Zeffirelli film at a local art house in Connecticut, where I grew up. And it got to the part where they go, to the friar, and they're in the catacombs, and he thinks she's dead. And I got up and I left and I went sat on the bus because somehow I thought that if I didn't see it happen, it didn't happen. And the teacher came in, he was like, "Danny, are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I just, I didn't want to see the ending." And I'm sure Mr. Corcoran was like, "Okay, this little sensitive freak."
it's like that. It brings up that Milch, Penn Warren, the heart breaks and breaks and lives by breaking. And as kids hadn't yet learned that.
Yeah. So
And but I'm really glad that in this, I feel like you don't, so many films, books, shows, they feel they've moved into this transgressive because like they feel it's like the whole culture is like that. And it's this idea of what Milch called like numbed sensibilities, and just for the sake of transgression. And I really dislike that. I mean, my work is not that. I take pains. I want to show you the world, and you do that too. I want to show you this world, but I don't need to bash your head with it or unnecessarily break your heart. Your heart can be broken by the situation. So you understand it, but understand it socioeconomically and all the other factors that go into creating the circumstances, but just the kind of senseless kind of, okay, and now we're gonna, you know,
yeah, I feel like in retrospect when I watched the film again recently because I've been doing a lot of Q&As, and I thought, wow, it's a radical act to make a film without irony, especially a very earnest love story. So I just hope people are ready for that. The film doesn't have a conventional antagonist. Usually the antagonist would be the husband, who would be homophobic or abusive.
right, right.
Oh
I
my
kept
God.
I kept expecting that turn, like, oh, Will's gonna bust out and be a douche, but he's like, he's protective of his
Wants
brother.
the best for everyone. But the real antagonist of the film is their own desires. And, when you're going to pursue your true self, people are going to get hurt along the way. So, that it has a unique drive in that way. It's unconventional.
Um, the one thing is, so was that true? They had those mirrors up in the ceiling? Is that
Yeah, that's a real thing. We actually found documentation of those. Now they have all cameras, but up through the 70s, we found these images of people standing on these catwalks looking down through either through a two-way mirror or through just an opening in the ceiling, watching the gamblers below for the house, to make sure people didn't cheat.
wow,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, it's sexy, right? I loved that. It's like so unique.
And how did you find Diego? Because I interviewed him and he was just wonderful.
He's so great. Diego, I had seen him in Narcos, and I'd seen like this indie uh, film from Mexico that he was in. And then during the casting process, uh, we reimagined the character slightly. In the novel, he's a Mexican American guy from the Central Valley, some like agricultural family. And but when you get someone of that caliber, like, and then he was coming out in Babylon, um, and it was easier for me to convince my producers that like this is the guy. He's so charismatic. Uh, he's just a natural. I could use every frame of what I shot with him. He's very soulful, and I thought that was a unique take on the character who's going to lead Julius into danger, for him to really be this kind of like cool, soulful guy. And Diego's like, the kind of guy that could convince you to do anything. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we were so lucky to have him. I loved working with him. Both very different styles of acting, but had an incredible chemistry. Diego's very improvisational and very loose and uh, Jacob's more he's more method, but he's very he studies really hard, and he's very he really considers everything very carefully. So they really complemented each other. I think they had such an easy uh, way together that I loved. Same with Sasha and Daisy.